And these names are going to be very tricky for me for the first half of this card.
You can do it, sweetie.
But we have Tagir Ulanbekov versus Alan Nascimento. Ulanbekov 12-1 overall. He is 4-1 in his last 5, riding a 4-fight win streak. Nascimento 18-5 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, alternating wins and losses. Tagir, he's a dominant come forward wrestler, and there is a theme on this card. A lot of these guys are dominant wrestlers, especially the first half of the card. But Tagir's a dominant come forward wrestler. He has just okay striking. That's really only there to set up his fantastic wrestling. He does have a nice jab, but right behind it is a takedown attempt. He only has 1 fight in the UFC, so the stats are wonky. He had 5 takedowns in that fight with only a 45% accuracy, which means in a 15-minute fight, he took 10 shots. Alan Nascimento, he's a fun striker. He likes to grapple, or he can grapple. He doesn't have much to offer in the wrestling department, though, so he can't handle those transitions. He has no problem getting into a brawl. He gets taken down and then works for sweeps and submissions from there. He has 1 fight worth of stats. My goodness. 1 fight worth of stats as well. So his numbers are a little wonky. And they don't bode well for his wrestling. A measly 10% takedown defense. And unfortunately for him, takedown defense will be the only thing that could prevent a one-sided loss. He does have okay power. He has the much more technical striking than Tagir does. But if he can't keep it on his feet, then he just can't win this fight. And even Allen's, he has pretty slick sweeps and a ground game. That's not going to help him because Tagir's base on top, his pressure is too good. Allen making his official UFC debut after a Contender Series loss 3 years ago. What are your thoughts, Jakey boy? And welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I kind of forget what's going on here, but we'll try to work through it. Listen, you mentioned there's a lot of Russians on this card, with Tagir being one of them. And I honestly think that this was set up to get the Russian crowd excited, because I think Tagir is just going to absolutely destroy Allen. I think he should destroy him. Listen, I think he's got underrated striking, but he definitely is a wrestler. But he'll carry his hands a little bit low in those striking exchanges, and he will get hit. So Allen, if he comes in with power, there's a chance that Tagir gets caught, but he really shouldn't. Allen looks stiff to me. You mentioned his UFC debut. This is going to be a sub or bust fight for Allen. I mean, he's going to get taken down, and he's just kind of work and try to get an arm bar or something weird to happen, because that's the only way this fight's going to go. I like Tagir by complete mauling. The Russian crowd gets excited, and this card gets off to a great start for all the Russians on the card. So I like Tagir in this fight, and he's probably going to find his way in my DraftKings lineup, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, the problem with this card, we have a lot of dominant wrestlers, and they're all very expensive. We have, there may be more 9,000 plus fighters on this card than any other card we have ever broken down. It is crazy how many of these guys are over $9,000. So now you have to pick your spots. You almost have to look for wrestlers that can get a finish or can't keep you down. This way you get back up and they get takedown after takedown. After takedown. I'm very sick. Show goes on, so I'm just going to keep pushing through. But I agree. $9,400 is a lot of money. He's a dominant wrestler. Allen isn't going to have anything to offer in the defense. So I imagine Tagir's probably worth that money. $6,800 on Allen. I don't know what you're going to get for that. What do you think of this Monkey Knife Fight strike line?
I'd go less on this, honestly. Allen is super low volume. He doesn't really want to strike. Tagir, this might be one of those fights where he tries to show off his striking. And a lot of times wrestlers will try and show off their striking in a big moment. It's a big card, the first fight. So, I mean, he could eclipse that, but I think he's just going to get on the ground and just maul him and end it pretty quick. So I would go to less on this probably.
Yeah, less could be interesting. The 44 scares me, but if he's on his back the whole time, I don't know what strikes he's going to get anyway. So less is probably the play. Monkey Knife Fight. You have your pick of fights on this card. We have 15 full fights, and we will break all of them down. I have no bet on this fight, but what I might do with this or others, when I am positive that the favorite is going to win and not give up any ground or a round or anything. We always talked about those plus 3.5 fights where I can buy points on a judge's scorecard and all my guy needs to do is win one round and I hit my bet. You could also subtract points. So I might play with the odds on a Tagir Ulanbekov minus 3.5. And instead of being minus 340, I will now get like minus 100 odds. Now I got even money on a huge favorite. And all he has to do is not lose a round. He can win by stoppage, unanimous decision, 30-27. Just don't lose a round. I'll get paid. So I'm probably going to experiment with that in a couple of the fights on this card. Next up at UFC 267, we have Andre Petroski versus Yazong Hu. Yazong Hu, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off 2 losses, and his entire career is his last 5. He only has 5 fights in his career, coming off 2 losses, and he's still in the UFC, but it is what it is. Andre Petroski, 3-2 in his last 5, if you include the Ultimate Fighter, and he has been alternating wins and losses. And I mentioned, this is a weird one. We have a guy with only 5 fights who's on a 2-fight losing streak, who is headed back to the UFC after a 3-year layoff. None of that sentence makes any sense whatsoever. Skill-wise, Yazong is tall. He throws heavy punches. He marches forward. He was a big underdog pick for me. He was scheduled to fight Alan Emedovsky a few months back, and I liked him in that fight this past summer. And if you remember back from when I broke that fight down, Joe Todoro, hopefully you're watching now, Joe, told us that he found somewhere that Yazong Hu is some incredibly high-level grappler. We haven't been able to sort of verify that, but I'll throw it back out there in case it's true. But if you do check Yazong's Instagram, he has gone through an absolute body transformation. He looks phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. He has spent these 3 years at the very least working out, right? We don't know what he's done with his skill set, but he has transformed physically in 3 years. And, you know, if he has focused as much time and energy on his skills as he has his body, we could be in for a solid upset here. Andre Petroski, very good wrestler. He's got good takedowns. His stand-up is just okay. It is loaded with power shots, but they're just there for the wrestling. Big, heavy power shots to set up the wrestling. He is absolutely a wrestler, and his wrestling is pretty dominant. It's fast. It's in your face. Andre should win. He should be able to use the wrestling to get this done, but we did see him lose to Brian Battle on The Ultimate Fighter by not setting up his takedowns, and that potentially could be a problem here. I mean, it's kind of a shot in the dark, but I do think there's some upset potential here. You agree with me?
Actually, my whole analysis was going to be on how Petroski was going to dominate this fight. He should be like a 5-1 favorite. And then I had just remembered, like right when I saw his picture, that we already saw Hugh, as you mentioned, his body transformation. We saw him weigh in, and the guy looks absolutely fantastic. And as you mentioned, it's hard to pick against him when it seems that someone's been working that hard. I will bring up the fact that he has popped for USADA once already. So that was when he was a heavyweight. He's come all the way down to 185. So maybe there's some weird stuff going on. And so if he is on the juice, that gives you, even more of an advantage in this fight. So I'm gonna have to like redo my whole analysis on this fight because I forgot literally that Hugh was who he is now. So let me go back, reassess some things, and then I'll get back to you.
Well, we have Amanda Hebos later, so I'm sure you'll have your Instagram pick in that fight as well. So
I got her gram up right now.
Andre is a minus 245 favorite because of the wrestling. Yazong Hu, his body of work is miserable.
But
3-2 coming off 2 losses.
It looks like art though.
He's 3-2 coming off. Sorry, sick as hell. 3-2 coming off 2 losses. Hasn't fought in 3 years. It would be a complete shot in the dark. I don't think I'm going to put any money on Yazong Hu, but Andre Petrosi's not very good. He's a good wrestler, but that's where it ends. His striking is just heavy for the wrestling. So I think more is probably the play here. I think it'll be kind of a sloppy fight. I think they'll go at it. So I think more and more is probably the monkey knife fight play. Betting wise, I'm not going to touch anything here. I just don't know enough about anybody's durability to do an inside the distance decision, no action. Like there's just too much going on here to make a call there. What do you think about DraftKings?
DraftKings? Yeah, I don't know. Because the $8,600 is probably overvalued for him. And then you just don't know about Hughes. So I wouldn't trust him enough because $7,600, maybe if he was like a 68 or a 69 or something like that. But 76 is, you got to know what you're getting for 76.
Yeah, and I told you, I was all over Yazong in the Alan Amedovski fight, but this is a different matchup. And, regardless of how bad Petrosky's stand-up might be, he is a very good wrestler, and that is a dangerous skill to have. Next up, at UFC 267, we have Makwan Amirkhani versus Lerone Murphy. Amirkhani 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of 2 losses. And I said that correctly, 2-3 in his last 5. He's got himself a bit of a losing streak. Lerone Murphy, 4-0-1 in his last 5, undefeated. He does have a draw in the mix there. Amirkhani is better than his recent UFC run. He's a good grappler. He averages almost 4 takedowns per fight. He's a durable guy. He's got okay striking. He's got okay cardio. It does fade, but it is there. He's definitely closer to a first-round fighter than he is a 3-round fighter, but he can push the pace when he needs to push the pace. You could argue in this matchup that he should be the favorite because his grappling, but either way, this line is wide. -340. That is a wide line. Lerone Murphy, very good striker. He moves incredibly well. He has a ton of power. He'll light up your body, then step completely out of the pocket and get out of striking range. His footwork is very good. He's dangerous on his feet. You might think he doesn't defend takedowns well because he's listed at 41% takedown defense, but he has only been taken down 7 times in his entire UFC career, and 6 of them were in one fight. So those stats are skewed. You eliminate that one fight, all of a sudden his takedown defense is looking pretty good. If you look closer at those takedowns, it means that he's getting back up. We just talked about this breaking down a fight earlier. He has a get up. He's getting back up. You take somebody down 6 times in a fight. That means he got up 5 times in that fight. And that will be important in this matchup against Amirkhani. I need to rest my throat. So why don't you give us your opinion while I take a drink?
I will give you my opinion because we have what? Let's go through. We have, what was it? Guyana wrestling. We have Arkansas wrestling. I feel like there was another one. Was it Korean wrestling? I think there was something like Korean wrestling maybe. And now we have Finnish wrestling with Amirkhani. I think, listen, if Hebas was not on this card, I think Amirkhani was going to be the lock of the week. Listen, Lerone Murphy is very good. Very, very, very good. But his takedown defense is suspect. You saw it in the Zubaira fight. He got taken down, and he had a tough time getting – he got back to his feet, but he did have a tough time getting back to his feet. I think Amirkhani, he's done with the losing streak. He comes in, does what he does best, Finnish wrestling phenom, takes Lerone Murphy down. He's the backup lock of the week. $6,900 is the easiest money you could put in your DraftKings lineup.
Listen, if I could trust Amirkhani's cardio, then he'd be my pick. Easy. No problem. He'd be my pick. He would stick to a wrestling game plan, get it done, take away the power, the movement of Lerone Murphy. My concern is that with all the wrestling attempts, he is going to gas out and then potentially get stopped late in his fight. This is much closer than Vegas says. Vegas saying -340 is insane. I disagree with it. This is exactly where I will probably put down a +3.5. I just need to figure out if I think Amirkhani is going to get stopped or not. But +3.5 bet, all that means is Amirkhani just has to win 1 round. 1 round. With his wrestling, especially the first round when he's fresh, he could take Lerone down, beat him up a little bit, let Lerone get back up, take him down again, have 2 takedowns in the first round, win that round, then get outstruck for 2 more rounds, and I will still get paid. I will still hit that bet. Right now, he's +260, that +3.5, where I'm buying 3.5 points on the judge's scorecard. That'll probably be around +120. So it's not as good of odds, but it's insurance. The dude can get pounded on for 2 rounds, and I can still get paid. So wewantpicks.com/bets. Bet Online has those prop bets. If you sign up, make a deposit, let me know. I'll send you $50. What are your thoughts on the Monkey Knife Fight line?
More.
I agree. I think it's a more. I do think they go at it, especially if I'm going to do the 3.5 on Amir Khani. I don't think Amir Khani can finish Murphy. Murphy can certainly finish Amir Khani with that striking, especially if Amir Khani gasses. So that's what has me worried. But I do, Amir Khani is like my pick, but by like this close with a question mark, just because I like the grappling. Lerone Murphy's takedown defense. I mentioned the stats are skewed because most of those takedowns were in one fight, but a takedown's a takedown. So it is what it is. wewantpicks.com/bets. Make a deposit. Let me know. I'll send you $50. I like the 3.5 on Amir Khani, and we'll see what those odds are when they pop up. Next up, at UFC 267, we have Mashal Olenjacek versus Shamil Gamzatov. Mashal is a very good striker with really fast hands and a ton of pressure. He has power, but not a ton. And he does separate himself with his speed. So his speed sort of replaces the power. What the hell the word I'm looking for? He will trick you into thinking he has power because he's so fast. He will catch you with strikes that you didn't see coming, and they'll hit twice as hard because you didn't see them coming. He doesn't necessarily have knockout flat power, but speed is honestly more important than power, and he has a little bit, hides it behind the speed, and he's very dangerous on his fight. On his feet. He does have holes in the grappling. Shamil coming off a 2-year layoff. He's a very good world level grappler. He uses leg kicks to slow you down before he bullies forward to a takedown and then works his grappling from there. And this is one of the lines on the card that is honestly pretty accurate. This card is loaded with -300 favorites. There's like a -800. Like, this card is crazy with the disparity between the fighters. I actually think this line is as close to accurate as we're going to get on this card. I would normally easily side with the wrestler in Shamil, but a 2-year-long layoff, and he's a grappler, not really a wrestler. So not bringing those takedowns to the table has me questioning what he could do. And you've heard my rants in the past about good jiu-jitsu guys that can't wrestle. Michelle has the volume and the pressure to overwhelm Gamzatov. The issue is the giant gap on the ground. Like, Michelle would have to fight a perfect fight for 15 minutes to win, because I feel like if he gets taken down, that's it. He has nothing to offer. Shamil can beat him up from there. I have to side with the more dangerous guy, and that is the grappler in Shamil. What do you think?
Is this not Michael? Is it Michelle? I thought it was just Michael.
Listen, man.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'm going to call him Michael. I don't know. But the best part about this fight is going to be Michael's corner yelling in Polish. It's the scariest thing you've ever heard in your life. It's like a scary movie, somebody yelling through a cave, like, ah. It's terrifying, and it sounds incredible. That's going to be a lot of fun in this fight. But as you mentioned, Shamil, man, this dude is mean. You say he's just a grappler. I think he's a wrestler. He's a Russian. He's a wrestler. When I see blast doubles, I see high crotch singles. I see
you couldn't point those. You could not
point
those takedowns out on a doll.
Excuse me. I see the thing where I see the thing where he grabs his foot and lifts it like this, and then he trips him like that. I see the headlock, this where you do that and you twist him like that. He's got it all. He's going to get this fight to the ground. Michelle or Michael, whatever your name is, I apologize. You're going to get the beat out of you. So I like Shamil in this matchup.
All right, you're going Shamil. I'm going Shamil. I'm a little more worried about it than you are, but all is fair. I do like the odds, honestly. I think the odds are pretty accurate, where in some of the other fights, they're super, super wide. So $8,400, I think that's a solid price. With the first time we have a good guy that's priced affordably. I like $8,400.
That's very affordable. He should be probably 89-ish in my mind.
I mean, Michelle is dangerous on his feet, though. I mean,
Michelle, Michael Michelle, he lost his last fight. That was a bad decision. He lost that fight.
Well, he also has a ton of experience, and the gap on the ground is the big issue. Monkey knife fight, interesting line. 48 is a little higher than what we've seen in some of these striker versus grappler matchups. What do you think?
What did you ask? Monkey knife fight?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at my notes. I was seeing if I missed anything. I got pages of notes over here. It's crazy.
Yeah,
did you already give a pick, or were you waiting on mine?
Jesus Christ. What do you? How about you have an original thought? And then
less.
Okay, yeah, you're useless, absolutely useless.
What did you say? More?
Oh, where's Jacob? Where's Jacob? Who cares?
What did you say? Did you give a pick?
No,
oh.
I didn't. I said it's a tricky line because 48 is higher. What?
Make a pick.
I just said it's a tricky line. 48 is higher than what we've been seeing. It is probably less. It is probably less. But that is one of the trickier lines that we have 15 fights to pick from, so I'm not going to touch it. I may grab a inside the distance decision, no action somewhere here, maybe on Michelle, but we'll see what happens. And let's move on to the next fight. Next up at UFC 267, we have Elizeu Zaleski versus Benoit Saint Denis. He's French. Zaleski, very good striker. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Zaleski, 22-7, 3-2 in his last 5. Benoit, 8-0, 4-0-1 in his last 5. Zaleski, very good striker. He's got real power. He's very athletic, and he could also be really dangerous on the ground. He's honestly similar to a fighter that I used to manage, Cristiano Souza. He had that capoeira background. You probably don't know who Cristiano Souza is, but you do know Michel Pereira. Same athletic, striking, Brazilian dance fighting capoeira background. Where he has real power, real athleticism, real cardio. It makes him a very dangerous guy. If we compare these two, there are miles between them as far as experience is concerned, 22 wins to 8, and then 10 years of fighting experience. Zaleski started his career 10 years before Benoit made his pro debut. Benoit's a very good wrestler. He has really well-timed shots, a ton of pressure on top. He isn't a sort of cage grinding wrestler. He is an actual lower his level, take a shot, attack the legs type wrestler. And I love to see that. When he gets it to the ground, he has good pressure. He works for submissions. He's got a ton of power in his feet, and he does stick to that game plan. And he brings that sort of heavy-handedness to the ground. I'm going to side with the underdog here. I like Zaleski. Athletic, dangerous, good forward pressure, really good wrestling. I like it.
You said you're going to side with the underdog. You just picked the favorite.
No, good. No, I'm going with Benoit, the underdog, the wrestler.
Yeah, well, okay, that makes sense. But you said I'm gonna side with the underdog, Zaleski. I was like, wait, what's going on here? So
yeah,
it's fine.
I'm sick. Cut me some slack.
Benoit better get to this fight to the ground and get it to the ground fast. You mentioned Zaleski and his capoeira. He's like one of the only people you mentioned Michel Pereira. Him and Michel Pereira, it's like they actually use the capoeira. Everyone always does like the stupid stuff, like late in the round, they'll throw it like randomly. Connor used to do it all the time, like just to throw it out there. But they actually use it, and he actually knocks people out. He knocked out Sean Strickland with the capoeira as a spinning heel kick, just hit him right clean in the chin. So Benoit better get this fight to the ground and better do it fast. Otherwise, he's going to be in a lot of trouble with a lot of those weird striking coming at him. So I don't disagree with the Benoit pick. I just think that Zaleski is going to be able to hold his own, even if it goes around with scrambles and stuff like that to get back to the feet and win the striking. So I'm going to go Zaleski on this. Not super confident. I don't like the $8,500, but if I had to pick, I would pick Zaleski.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the athletic capoeira spinning, like it can be frustrating, it can be confusing, but because of Benoit's wrestling style, like if he was a hold you against the cage, work from there, it actually would be harder because he's got to get He's got to hold you against the cage. He's got to get close enough to do that. With Eliza's spinning and the kicks and things like that, all Benoit has to do is lower that level, bang, hard double, right up the middle, catch a leg. Even if he doesn't catch it, just lower the level and go, run right through it, and he'll be fine. So I like the style of wrestling versus the style of striking. So I'm good with the $7,700 for sure. A money line bet, I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it because the reality is he is only 8-0. This is a big step up in competition for him, and it's a big test. So we'll see if that moved to plus 170. I'd hit it in a second. We'll see. You guys know me. I'm up units every single week for like, 6 months, 7 months now. And it's because I pick my spots. I take my time. I don't force anything. I only do a couple a week. So we'll see if he makes the list. I just, the inexperience is the only thing that worries me there. Monkey Knife Fight, this line is right down the freaking middle, and I hate these. What do you think?
No, you pick first.
Yeah. I'll talk first. I'll pick first. You can just ride my coattails.
That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Well, maybe, man, I don't know. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not even going to attempt. Because more and more.
I'd go more and more.
More and more is probably safer because I do think it goes 3 full rounds. But 58 strikes, that's a lot of spinning. That's a lot of landing on Benoit. And if he gets lit up that much, that could be a problem. So that's the only reason. That's the only thing that worries me. I think Benoit is fine with going over 45. The 58 is what worries me. So like the underdog here, I think it's the first underdog we've picked tonight. So we'll see what happens. Next up, at UFC 267, we have Albert Duraev versus Roman Kopylov. Albert 5-0 in his last 5. Coming off a win just last month off Contender Series, 14-3 overall in his career. Kopylov 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a submission loss almost 2 years ago. So another guy with a long layoff. This card is stacked with nasty wrestlers, and Albert Duraev is another one on that list. He has very good takedowns, very good top pressure, very good ground and pound. He sets up his Greco-style takedowns with leg kicks and cage bullying. He's got a pretty basic game plan, but stopping him from executing it is not an easy thing to do. And if you don't know what I mean when I say Greco-style takedowns, there's 3 different styles of wrestling.
You want me to handle this?
I would love to hear you explain it.
No, go ahead. Actually, you go.
I would love.
So first of all, so you have like high school, you do the thing with the tights, then you have the Olympics and they do the thing. And then I think there's something.
Solid insight. High school wrestling that you've seen is folk style wrestling, and America is the only country that does it. Nobody else does it. So once you start competing internationally, there's 2 styles. Freestyle, which is the more common one. Jordan Burroughs shooting takedowns, picking people up, all of that. And then Greco wrestling. That is what Daniel Cormier went to the Olympics for. You cannot touch the legs at all with your hands. It's all upper body, trips, hip tosses, things like that. So Albert Duraev's wrestling is that sort of Greco style where he comes in, he stays upper body, he works trips, he works body locks. He's not dropping down to your legs. Kopylov, very good kickboxer. He's had success in the kickboxing world. Before MMA, outside of MMA, he competed in kickboxing and did well. He is a low output guy, though. He does pick his shots. He tends to throw 1 strike at a time while he sort of settles in, and then he'll weave together some combinations. If you look at his loss, my throat is, I'm sick as hell. If you look at his loss, he was taken down 1 time and submitted. The cornering, the concerning part is that it only took 1 single takedown. So his last fight in the UFC, that loss, that submission, 1 single takedown got him to the ground, and then he was submitted. He couldn't work his way back up. He couldn't work his way out. Down, submitted, and done by a kickboxer. That was not him versus a nasty grappler versus a nasty wrestler. That was done by another kickboxer. Roman striking is legitimately good. But the issue is the wrestling. Will his wrestling be there? What's that going to look like? 2 years off. We're in the dark with what improvements he's made, what improvements he hasn't made. And honestly, even if he has spent 2 full years wrestling, I don't know if he's going to be able to cover enough ground to stop Duraev. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, there's levels. And as you mentioned, he could wrestle every single day for the last 2 years, and I still don't think it's going to matter. I see this as, I honestly, at minus 275, I think is still good value for Albert. I see this as like a 4-1 fight, especially because of that layoff. And Albert, just like you mentioned, fought a month ago. So he's fresh. He's coming in. He's got his timing. He's down. Boom, boom. Next fight. I see this as another just absolute mauling. But this could be a boring mauling. This could be one of those where he takes him down and just kind of controls him, and doesn't really look for the finish quite as much. So the $9,200, there's a lot of high price people on this card. I would look maybe at that $9,200, depending on how my underdogs lay out. But I definitely like Albert in this fight for sure.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, pretty cut and dry. Obviously, Roman has striking, could make something happen. I doubt it, but he could make something happen. This is another one where I will not spend the minus 275, but I might experiment with a minus 3.5. So again, removing 3.5 points from the judges' scorecard instead of paying minus 275. And we just got a comment in the live chat that he's now minus 345. So these odds have moved dramatically.
I said 4-1, and look what happens. I mean, instantly, boom. Everyone's coming. That's how many people watching right now.
You can sort of handicap him. I can subtract points from the judge's scorecard, and now I can get him at minus 150, and all he has to do is not lose a round. He can win by stoppage, submission, KO, win a 30-27, just can't lose a round, and I'll get paid. So I'm going to check those odds out. With these dominant wrestlers that will likely not give up any rounds or ground, those are probably solid bets. You're only going to get them at wewantpicks.com/bets. Bet online, that partner has those crazy prop bets. Jump into that, make a deposit, let me know. I'll send you $50. I will probably spend the $9,200. The first fight of the card, we talked about a $9,400 fighter, which, you know, there's so many of these dominant wrestlers in the 9,000 range. Saving $200 and going for Duraev instead of somebody else, I think is absolutely worth it. What do you think there? You think
Yeah, that's not a bad play. And I also have my notes too. When I was watching tape on Duraev, I think he's honestly going to be a real problem for the middleweight division. I think he's that level good. I think he can be a top 10 guy. And really, I don't know if he can be a title guy, because at some point you really do have to strike. We'll see what happens with Brunson, if he can go all the way with just wrestling. But eventually you will have to strike. And I don't think he's going to be quite there with the striking, but I think he's gonna be a top 10 guy, one of those just gatekeepers that's there forever and just knocking everyone down that tries to take his spot. So I like Duraev a lot with his abilities.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, it's probably more with the strike line, because he's busy on top. He's got good pressure, good volume. 24 strikes from Roman. That one actually worries me because he is not a high volume guy. So he's already low volume and he's fighting a dominant wrestler. So 24. You still you almost just have to go. I mean, that is not a lot. If you don't think there's a stoppage, so you think this dude's going to fight 3 rounds, he's got to land 24 strikes, right? In 15 minutes, every little strike counts, including the ones when Albert's coming in. We mentioned Greco style wrestling. That's upper body stuff. So Roman could be working here and trying to circle out. So I got to go the more and more Monkey Knife fight. $100 deposit match. wewantpicks.com/MKF. Next up at UFC 267, we have Zubura Tukhugov versus Ricardo Ramos. Zybura, 19-5 overall, 2-2-1 in his last 5. Ricardo Ramos, 15-3 overall.
Ramos.
Was he a lock of the week at one point? No?
I believe he might have been. I think that we're on our way to maybe back-to-back then.
Oh, boy. Well, this is interesting.
Boy.
I'm sick. Ricardo Ramos. 15-3 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Look, Zubura, another very good grappler.
Actually, I think it's Ramos.
What?
Right? He's Brazilian, so I think it's Ramos. So I think we were wrong either way.
Okay. Zubura, Very good grappler, mediocre stand-up, and just okay cardio. The problem is that his wrestling is solid enough to get him wins. He gets by with his wrestling, even though his cardio is not great and his striking definitely isn't. He does not need to be a complete fighter to put together these wins. He just needs to lean on that wrestling and on that grappling. He charges forward, gets a takedown, works from there. If he can't get takedowns, that's when he's in trouble. And we have seen that with him in the past, especially as the fights go on, he starts to wear down and becomes less and less effective. Ricardo Ramos, because he's Brazilian, is a very dangerous fighter who's good everywhere. He's tall, rangy, solid striker with slick jiu-jitsu. He's got high kicks, spinning kicks, a great jab, solid leg kicks. And if it hits the ground, he's always looking for a submission, and he's really fast in those transitions. He's a complete package. He's very good. Another guy where wrestling isn't great. Takedown defense, just okay. Sorry, better than okay. It's actually 73%. The odds would make you think that Ricardo Ramos or Ramos is pretty useless on the ground, right? I mean, they're not crazy odds, but it's almost 2-1. So, and Teixeira has no striking at all. So the odds makers must have been like, oh, Ramos can't do anything on the ground. So there we go, 2-1 favorite. And that's all that Teixeira needs to do is get it there. But Ricardo's dangerous on the ground, and he can not only touch up Teixeira as he's charging in for one of those sloppy takedowns. He can hit him there, but once he's on the ground, he can work there as well. This is honestly a pick 'em to me, and I flip-flopped on this pick a bunch of times over. The last thing I'll say before I hand it over to you is Teixeira's takedown accuracy is only 46%, whereas Ricardo Ramos's takedown defense is 73%. And I do think he'll probably need that, because even though he's capable on the ground, I don't think he'll be able to throw up a submission. So what do you think?
No, he better not get taken down. Ricardo was the lock of the week. The second I was looking at this card, and obviously Hebas is on it, and we'll get the Hebas here in a little bit. But as I was looking at this card, Ricardo Ramos, that's my boy, and he was going to be the lock of the week again. And then I started digging into the film a little bit, and his takedown defense, what'd you say it was? Is like 70-some%?
73.
Yeah, I don't believe that. It sucks. It's not any good. He'll get to, if Teixeira gets to him, he's going to get taken down. But Ricardo is so good at keeping range, and that's what I love about him. His striking is like that karate style. He'll throw some front kicks out there. He'll keep pushing you back. It's hard to really get inside where he's at. But if it happens, Ricardo's got to win the scrambles, man. He can't be on his back. As you mentioned, he's got really good jiu-jitsu, which could be a deficit for him, because he might just pull guard and try to work his jiu-jitsu, and that's how he's going to lose the fight. He just got to scramble out of it, threaten submissions to get out of the positions, to get back to his feet and use his range. So I really, really, really wanted to put Ricardo as my lock of the week. I still like the value at $7,900, but he just got to keep that range, man. He cannot get taken down and try to use his jiu-jitsu. He cannot do it. So I like Ricardo in this, but Teixeira can easily just control this fight. He can.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on it, and I ultimately ended up with obviously you guys can tell I'm reading notes here, right? I'm not a newscaster. I have, like, next to my pick, a question mark next to Teixeira, which is like, I'm going with him because he does have enough wrestling to hold somebody down and just ride out a pretty crappy decision. But his striking is not good at all. His takedowns are not very good either. That's what had me flip-flopping. But I do think the ability to take Ramos down and hold him down probably gives him a very slight edge. But, money-wise, Ramos is the better spend. And this is one where I'll probably look at the plus 3.5 points. Right now, he's plus 140 on the betting odds. If I can get him at minus 150 and all I need him to do is win one round on the judges' scorecards, that's very possible. He can win a round, especially with Teixeira's mediocre cardio in round 3, especially there. So there's definitely some spots in this fight. I do like the more. I think they go at it. I think it's a long fight, full 15 minutes. What do you think here?
Yeah, I love the more on this one. Honestly, I absolutely love the more.
Yeah, and DraftKings, 8,300, 7,900. Listen, if you guys don't know, we have a free DraftKings league. Go to wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Jump into the league, sign up, play. If you've never played before, it is a ton of fun and it costs you nothing. And if you win, I will send you money. If you are a subscriber, I'll send you $15. So if you're watching this and you don't subscribe, click the subscribe button. If you're a member, I send you 30. There's a join button under the video. Click that, play for free, win some money. wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Next up, at UFC 267, we have the feature prelim fight. We have Amanda Ribas versus Verna Jandiroba. Amanda Ribas, 10-2 overall, 4-1 in her last 5, coming off of that KO loss to Marina Rodriguez. Verna Jandiroba, 17-2 overall, 3-2 in her last 5. We've got 2 very good grapplers that are going to go at it. Amanda is a complete fighter. She started her career as a grappler. She's added in the striking. She's comfortable everywhere. Her striking stats are fantastic. She has a 4-1 striking differential, which means for every 4 strikes she lands, she has only hit 1 time. On top of that, her takedown defense is a solid 85%. She famously handed Mackenzie Dern her first loss, and she outstruck her more than 3-1 and even got her own takedowns without much concern for being submitted there. Verna Jandiroba, also fantastic on the ground. Her striking is just okay, but she hits hard and she throws with solid volume. She doesn't have much head movement, and the stats tell that story as well, because for almost every 2 strikes that she lands, she gets hit 3 times. So she's on the wrong side of that striking differential. There are no secrets to her game plan. Throw big, heavy punches, look for a takedown. She's probably the better pure grappler, but so is Mackenzie Dern, and that didn't work out for her. If we talk about paths to victory, Verna basically only has 1, which is a submission, whereas Amanda can win striking. Amanda can win a decision. Amanda can get some takedowns. We talked a lot on this card about odds that are too wide. I don't think these are wide enough. I already have a money line bet on Amanda Ribas, -155. I imagine that will move. I just don't see her losing to Jandiroba, who has just okay takedowns, and her jiu-jitsu is not as good as Mackenzie Dern's. Jacob, please go on your Amanda Ribas rant.
I honestly can't believe you are so anti-Amanda Ribas. I cannot believe that not only are you picking her, but you made her your lock of the week. That's insane. This Amanda Ribas is a lock of the week, and I want to say a few things uninterrupted, please. First of all, Verna was outstruck and lost a striking match to Mackenzie Dern. Listen, I love Mackenzie Dern. She's not a striker, and she just outjabbed and outstruck Verna to a decision win. That doesn't sit well for Verna in this matchup. Amanda is the better striker. She's the better at judo, and she's better at jiu-jitsu. I don't care what Verna's accolades are. She's better everywhere in this fight. The odds should be -900 for Amanda. I agree with you completely, Angelo. These should be -1,000, -5,000. I would bet Amanda at -10,000. This is the ultra lock of all locks. Listen, this might be the first time that we ever see someone get in a clinch situation and hip toss somebody out of the octagon. I'm honest to God, I think Amanda Ribas might hip toss her outside of the octagon for a disqualification win. Amanda's going to win. This is the easiest pick on the entire card. Easiest pick of the century.
I almost hate that I picked her now because I had to listen to that ridiculous rant. I do think, listen, I have the money line bet on her. I think she wins. You're being ridiculous. $8,200, I'll probably spend it. I don't know how well she'll score, but $8,200 is not a lot of money, so I'll spend that in DraftKings. Monkey Knife Fight, honestly, probably the more. It most likely goes to a decision. Verna will probably struggle to get past 46. That's the only problem with that more. What do you think there?
This is actually kind of tricky for Amanda because if this stays striking, I agree. Verna is tough enough. This is probably going to be a decision. It's probably going to be a more. But as you mentioned, Ribas with that, that bad stoppage, apparently knocked out last fight, whatever. She might come in and go back to her game plan, and that's just judo, throw people to the ground and try to work submissions because that's what she does best. So that's 84 is real tricky. It depends on her game plan. And I've been watching the embeddeds. Amanda, you've been looking great on the embeddeds. But also when she's hitting pads, man, it looks like she's really, really been working on her striking, working on her kicks. She was throwing a lot of kicks in the embedded. So we'll see what happens there. So I don't really love playing that 84.5. I'll probably stay away from this one, honestly.
Yeah. It is an interesting strike line, but we mention this all the time. These lines move with the money. So maybe it'll move in a direction that you like and the general public is wrong. So we'll see what happens there. But either way, wewantpicks.com/MKF. Jump in. They will give you a $100 deposit match. You don't have to play this line. You can play the others, and it's every single sport, not just UFC.
And I will mention just real quick, I did propose to Amanda, waiting response, will update.
Okay. Here's a funny story. Very quick for everybody.
No, we don't.
Yeah, no, we will. One of my friends that Jacob is in a group chat with knows Amanda well. He was a coach at American Top Team, knows her well. And Jacob in the group chat, me, Dan, this other person, a few other people, Jacob was like, oh, so-and-so. I'm not going to say who. So-and-so, do you have Amanda's number? Tell Amanda this. Tell Amanda, just how Jacob flirts. And the dude just replied, but here's her contact information, like her straight up contact card. And what'd Jacob do with it? What'd you do with it?
I mean, that's why I just proposed. We've been dating behind. I didn't want to bring this up, but we've been dating in private for a year now. I think we're ready to bring it public. That's why I proposed her on Twitter.
So Jacob did nothing.
Waiting for a response. I'm waiting for a response.
Was literally given her contact information. Her actual
She has liked a
number.
few of my tweets. She has liked a few of my tweets.
Yeah, you sent pictures of your dogs. What a cheesy move that
is. My account. It's not my dog's account. I'll tell you that.
We're moving on. Next up. At UFC 267, we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Volkan Ozdemir. Ankalaev 5-0 in his last 5, 15-2 overall in his career. Ozdemir 17-5 in his career, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of a KO loss to Jiri Prochazka. Ankalaev is a long kickboxer. He uses range well. He has devastating kicks, and he will throw those kicks right up the middle, almost like Anderson Silva when he knocked out Vitor Belfort. He has power in his hands, his power in his feet. He's very versatile. I'm very sick. If he does get in trouble striking, he has a wrestling backup game plan. He averages more than 1 takedown per fight, and both of these guys have great takedown defense. Ankalaev at 85%, Volkan at 80%. So I'm not too sure if this will end up on the ground. Volkan, also a striker, more of a boxer than a kickboxer. He does have kicks, but they aren't very natural, and he keeps them very low to your legs. He has forward pressure style with legit power and volume. He throws his hands hard, and he throws them often. If you watch his fight against Jiri Prochazka, it was basically a battle of the chins. They just went at it, mirror images of each other, heavy power, no head movement, no regard for their own chins. Unfortunately for Volkan, Jiri's chin held up better, and the odds what they are in this fight because of Volkan's chin. His forward at all cost style is going to be a problem here with Ankalaev's power and movement. And I'll pause there. We'll welcome in this absolute bum who hasn't joined this show in 6 months and is probably on mute.
Am I on mute?
No, you're
all right. That would have been perfectly fitting. What's going on, everybody? 6 months, that's an exaggeration. I've taken your money last.
Dan, real quick, why don't you just start with an apology if you're going to do anything?
I apologize to everybody except for Angelo. He's coming out a little aggressive. I wasn't planning to start like that, but I do apologize. I've been busy. I don't know. Whatever Angelo says is not the truth, but busy working, traveling, doing a bunch of things. But I'm going to get back in here full time as soon as I can.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on this fight now that you have become the expert?
Well, that's not going to be good for.
He's all choked up.
That's not going to be. No,
that's not going to be good. 5 minutes and Jacob's getting choked up.
No, it's funny because this is the fight that like you shouldn't pick the underdog, and I'm about to pick the underdog, and I honestly think this is more of a pick 'em fight. If you look at Volkan's resume, This is who he's lost to: Daniel Cormier, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes was a split decision. And then against Jiri, he had Jiri hurt. Nobody has Jiri hurt. He hits hard enough to where in the first round, Jiri was literally like running around the octagon, running away from him because he was that hurt. So I think this is going to be power for power. And honestly, I think this is a pick 'em fight. I mentioned the fight earlier in the card where I didn't really know either side, but I felt like it was a pick 'em fight. So if I think it's a pick 'em fight and I get the plus 260 odds, I'll take a shot at Volkan that his chin holds up and he has the power to put down Ankalaev. Listen, I know Ankalaev is good because I picked against him twice against Kutalaba for whatever reason. So he's burned me twice already. So everyone should probably pick Ankalaev because I'm picking against him again.
Yeah, I mean, at least you advise people to do the correct pick. I just, it is striker versus striker, but Volkan's chin just isn't there. And without the chin, how are you going to hang with a guy like Ankalaev? So that is what it is. I'm not going to spend the $9,100 though, even though he's probably live for a knockout. To me, this is more of a knockout Kings fight. I think you throw Magomed and knockout Kings and Monkey Knife fight, get yourself a nice little payout there. You only need one of three guys. If you like him enough to do a knockout prop bet, wewantpicks.com/bets, jump into one of the three promos, make a deposit, let me know, and I'll send you $50. Danny boy, I know you've done no research whatsoever. You've been way too busy. You have a thought here?
I do, actually. I'm going to apologize in advance, though, because I literally still am on hold with American Airlines, so you're going to hear the light elevator music in the background, and if they do answer, I'm going to mute myself, and Angelo, you can take over and make up whatever you want to make up. No, Jake, I actually agree with you here. I think there is some value on Volkan. Listen, Ankalaev's the favorite for a reason, but I think there's some value on him. I think they're both good strikers. They both have fought tough competition. And I would say Volkan's been in there with the tougher of the fighters, right? Ankalaev went to a decision with Nikita Krylov. So, overall, striking-wise, I think this is a matchup where both guys can look good. I do agree with you. The chin could be a problem with Volkan, but in terms of skill set, I think this should be a much closer fight than the odds say, than the DraftKings odds say. It's just the chin of Volkan that worries me a little bit. If he had an iron chin, I'd be all over him at 7,100 or plus 260. But Ankalaev can hit hard. So I like the value in Volkan. I don't know if I'm going to bet it, but I'm definitely going to. I don't know if Angelo told you guys, but now I won. What was it, $8,500 DraftKings a couple weeks ago. 100 of that was from Angelo, by the way. 150 maybe. But now I'm going to definitely be doing some decent exposure to Volkan in the GPP DraftKings entry. After DraftKings banned me, I'm on a mission now to literally take – it doesn't affect them at all. They just get commission. So just on a mission to win and give DraftKings more commission.
Yeah, obviously I'm on the Ankalaev side, but I do see value in the 7,100. I mean, I think the odds are wide, but the odds are what they are just because of Volkan's chin. So we'll see what happens. Next up at UFC 267, we have Jingliang Li versus Khamzat Chimaev. Jingliang Li, 18-6 overall, 4-1 in his last five. Khamzat Chimaev, 9-0 overall, 5-0 in his last five, coming off of those 3 UFC wins in 2 months. If you remember, he was the COVID hero last year. He was the Fight Island hero. He fought 3 times in 2 months in a couple different weight classes, just kept showing up, winning. And then he got COVID, and it put him down. He retired. He hasn't fought in a year. Then he came out of retirement, and it basically destroyed him physically, and he was very open about that. Jingliang is a very good boxer. He's got volume. He's got legit power. He mixes in low kicks to slow you down before sending power hands right over the top. So you might be listening to this and saying, all right, he's a great boxer. He's got good power. Why is he a plus 330 underdog? And that's because he does have holes in the grappling. He does not have much of a grappling game. He isn't a complete fish out of the water, but he only has a 59% takedown defense, and that is not going to be enough to keep Chimaev away. Chimaev, he's an interesting guy to break down because he's very good, but I think he's overrated. I don't know about anybody else, but I definitely think he's a little bit overrated. With that said, he's got good wrestling, good grappling, good ground and pound. He's got legit hands on his feet. He sets a really good pace, and he's always throwing something. He has that sort of Khabib-style chain wrestling with an added layer of striking. He's more comfortable on his feet. But the stats are insane here. And honestly, you can't do much with them because it's such a small sample size. Only 3 fights in the UFC. They were pretty quick, and they were back-to-back. But they tell you that for every 9 significant strikes that Kazmat lands, he's only hit 0.1 times. Not one time, 0.1 times. So you can't really dig into the stats here. Honestly, Chimaev is the pick, but that's only because styles make fights, and Lee isn't going to be able to defend those takedowns. I do think Chimaev is overrated. I'm going to take him in this fight. He'll immediately get a bigger name, and I'm going to fade him in that fight for sure. Jakey boy, what do you think?
These odds are like really disrespectful to Lee, honestly, because he is a really good fighter and should be respected as such. Where, as you mentioned, Chimaev, and I love Chimaev, and I think he probably will win this fight. But these odds being, 4.5, 3 to 1 on the other side is crazy to me because Jinling has the experience and he's going to know what to do in there. And Chimaev, it could be it could have just been like a weird, kind of like the NBA bubble when everyone just all of a sudden weird players were playing in the bubble. It could be a Fight Island thing where it's just like a weird thing. But to me, Chimaev is the real deal. You watch the embeddeds. He talked about now. Not only does he want to win the fight, but he wants to eat Lee. He wants to it's like the craziest thing I've ever heard. It was like disgusting and disturbing at the same time. He lives this stuff, man. I think that's why COVID messed him up so bad was because he couldn't train. They talked about how he kept trying to train even though he was sick. I think it destroyed him more mentally than physically to not be able to be in the gym. And now you watch the embedded, you watch these flips he's doing. He looks fantastic. I think he absolutely loves fighting. Some people fight because they're good at it, and some people fight because they absolutely love it. I think he is both. He is the real deal. I like Chimaev in this fight, but I still think those odds are a little disrespectful to Lee.
Yeah, I completely agree because Lee is super tough. So I actually think he's a good candidate for a wins inside the distance decision no action bet because I'm pretty confident he won't get stopped. So that'll protect me. I'll get a refund as long as he doesn't get stopped. And then if he wins with, he's got real power. So if he can win by stoppage, make something happen, I'll get paid. I'll hit that bet. So I will probably look to do that. I got to see what the odds are, but Bet Online, again, the only place that has those prop bets, wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump into the Bet Online. They'll match your deposit, and you can get sort of those safety net bets that I like to do. DraftKings, I'm not spending the $9,500. That's just so much money. And it's not as much as Islam. We'll see Islam in a minute. Are you going to spend $9,500?
I have to look at it. Depends on, honestly, it'll probably be how I feel when I wake up on Saturday, honestly, just because there is so many favorites and they all have the same style, right? They all want to get it to the ground. So it's kind of tough.
Well, for DraftKings, you almost need to find, and I mentioned this earlier, these dominant wrestlers that can't hold people down. So you can at least get the 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. Because you take somebody down, you hold them there. That's it. You only get.
Yeah, and you look at Chimaev too. I mean, he's all finishes too, and that's what you're trying to chase too in DraftKings. So
yeah, he's probably a good candidate, but Lee is pretty tough. Honestly, I don't know what to do with the Monkey Knife fight line because I do think Lee is tough and I think he can survive. But 71 is a ton of strikes for Chimaev. 30 is nothing for Lee, so this may be a less more situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I would probably play. I like the less more on that.
Yeah. Danny Boy, he's joining us. You haven't been able to do your research. You're traveling like crazy. You're on hold with American Airlines because you're literally flying out to Fight Island, to Abu Dhabi, to be with your buddy Glover. Are you going to corner him officially or you're just going to be there?
No, I mean, I don't think so. No, it's literally I got my passport today. By the way, Angelo, I think you made – did we make a bet? Did we bet a dollar amount on that?
Not, we did not bet. I just said you weren't going to be able to do it.
Yes, no, I got it today. I'll save the story for later. It's a good one. but Angelo was very, very doubtful of my ability to get a passport. 3 days, doubtful, I would say is more accurate. But yeah, pulled it off, got it today. So I had a flight booked, but I'm just switching it to try to get there a little earlier. So anyways, yeah, on this fight, I think this is going to be Chimaev's first big test, right? Like, he's got the hype, he's got the name, he's got the wrestling. Well, he's built the name with a lot of the hype and the talking, but and he's good. You know, listen, he's looked awesome in all of his fights, but the level of competition he's fought, I don't think necessarily justifies everybody being sold on him quite yet. This is going to be a tough test for him, but I think both of you guys called it out. I think this is a test he should pass, and basically that's 100% due to wrestling. Jinglang Li is a very good fighter. I'm just looking back on his record. I'm trying, and again, I have not taped this, but if I could guess, his loss 3 fights ago to what the hell, I lost.
I mean, his nickname is the Leech. You would think he'd be a good grappler, right? With a nickname like that, doesn't that kind of insinuate that you're kind of latched onto someone?
It does.
Yeah, I guess he lost to Neil Magny. I'm trying to remember that.
Neil Magny like ragdolled him.
Right, exactly. So if Neil Magny is ragdolling him to a decision loss, you gotta imagine Chimaev's going to be able to do something similar. You know, Jinglang Li's going to prepare for it, right? But man, wrestling, it doesn't matter how good you are, how skilled you are. If you have a big gap in your wrestling ability compared to your opponent, unless you land that big shot, eventually over time, over 3 rounds, you're going to get taken down, you're going to get held down, and you're going to get beat up a little bit. So I think Jinglang Li will be tough. There's a chance for him to pull an upset off, but unfortunately I see him losing a decision or exposing Khamzat. You know, there's that whole angle of the COVID stuff, you know, which, you know, I don't put a lot of hype into that. I mean, not to discredit what happened and all that, but you got to imagine he's come back, he's recovered. I'm sure it was a terrible time for him, but I don't know. I know as a fighter, when you're sick and you're like trying to train, it's like the most demoralizing feeling in the world. You're like, oh, I might never be good again. But then when you start feeling better, it's almost like amplified how good you feel. So he could be in that.
It could be like a not a wake up call, not like he was taking this moment for granted, but he felt like he almost lost all of this. Right. So now it's like if he's, like you mentioned, he's feeling great, he's gonna be even more focused, you know, to chase after his dreams. So
right. I think I told the story one time. The best fight I ever felt, I got sick 3 weeks out, and it was like a fever, and I was still trying to train. My coaches were like, dude, go home. There's nothing you can do that's going to help right now. And I literally didn't do anything for almost a week, and it was in my head so bad. But as fight week came, like that rest and just whatever, the recovering from the flu, cold, whatever it was, I felt so good. So there could be some of that involved too. So anyways, I think Khamzat, is the pick, but I don't like those odds. If I were to put money on this, I'd take. And
actually, the odds now are minus, I think 560 is like the lowest.
A lot of these moved big in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He's going to just take him down 100 times probably, but I don't know.
Yeah, minus 520 is the best odds you can get right now.
Yeah.
575, 590 now on one.
Wow. Well, who spends that? That's just so crazy. Well, either way, I do think less more is probably the monkey knife fight line. You could say less if you think he's absolutely just going to murder. You know, the problem is Chimaev has fought 3 times in the UFC, and I think he's been punched twice. At least that's what I saw somebody say. So, I mean, and we're thinking Jinglang
Li training with anybody that wrestles? Like, that's another big question. You know.
I have to imagine he knows what's about to happen, and he's at least attempting to prepare for it. So we'll see what happens. I'm honestly looking forward to the fight because I want Chimaev to be really good. I want him to become a name, and we immediately have a name at welterweight that can do something. So hopefully he is the hype.
I mean, honestly, he's at that point where if he does something crazy right now, the way the welterweight division is,
he'll get a title shot.
he could fight for the title.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Next up at UFC 267, we have a battle of the heavyweights. We have Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura. Volkov 33-9 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that decision loss to Cyril Gane. Marcin Tybura 5-0 in his last 5. Volkov, I mentioned, is coming off that loss to Cyril Gane, which was pretty one-sided, but I felt like he had his moments. I actually remember texting you, Jacob. I was watching it on my phone in the car, but I remember being like, this is kind of close. Volkov looks pretty good, at least earlier in the fight. So he definitely had his moments. Skill-wise, Volkov is a high IQ fighter. He's fast and has volume. He picks his shots well, and he will adapt in a fight. He does not have a ton of power, but his volume and his timing do suit him well enough to get some finishes. Despite that last-minute loss to Derek Lewis, he does have a pretty good chin, and he is a pretty durable guy. And speaking of durable, Marcin Tybura also very durable. He's a grinder. He never quits, and he's busy everywhere. His striking is just okay, and he's more of a punches in bunches kind of guy. He's just going to throw a bunch of crap at you, not really set it up, not look to make it clean. He's just going to throw a whole bunch of it at you and see what happens. But and his strikes are really there just to set up his takedowns. If he gets a takedown, he'll pound on you till you quit. He doesn't really need to look for submissions. And because Volkov is a far superior striker, this absolutely becomes a striker versus grappler matchup. And if we dig into those stats a little bit, Volkov has a 67% takedown defense against Tybura's 45% takedown offense. I do think this fight is going to be a little closer than these odds. But Tybura is going to need to abandon his body locks, because those are the takedowns he uses, and look for traditional doubles and singles and shoot normal shots on a taller guy. Body locks on somebody as tall as Volkov are not going to work. Tybura is going to have to lower his level, get to those legs, and try to get a takedown from there. I think it's closer than the odds say, but I do think it's a pretty straightforward win for Volkov. I'll let you go, Jakey Poo.
Yeah, I actually agree, because I when I was picking this fight, I didn't see the odds. I was like, yeah, I think Volkov should probably win, but it's just kind of one of those weird fights where Tybura wins fights sometimes he shouldn't win. Like that Walt Harris fight, he was getting absolutely beat on, and then Walt Harris just gassed himself on, and then he flipped it around and TKO'd Walt Harris. But he doesn't really have the heavyweight power per se, and I think he's gonna struggle here against Volkov in this matchup, because Volkov has the range. He knows how to use that range with his kickboxing. And you mentioned the Gane fight. That's probably the best anyone has even looked against Gane. He went 5 rounds and had his moments. Never really had Gane in trouble, but he looked decent. If you look at his last three losses, one was to Gane, one was to Curtis Blade, so he gets laid on for 5 rounds. And then the Derek Lewis fight, which was he was dominating until the last 15 seconds. So the crazy part for me is, honestly, Volkov, in my mind, for whatever reason, seems like an old guy. I think just because he's been fighting so often, he just seems like he's like 37, 38 on his way out. He had a little run, but now he's just going to kind of fade off. The guy's only 33 years old. This could still be the prime of his career. It should be the prime of his career. I think he gets the job done against Tybura. I think he gets it done kind of boring, but pretty easily for him, and just kind of a distant striking match. So I like Volkov in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we agree with that pick. And I do think it's sort of a goes the distance type fight, because Volkov doesn't really have that knockout power. Marcin Tybura, super tough guy. So I never do these specific props, but I may do Alexander Volkov by decision, and maybe I'll get better odds than the -300 we have here. Danny boy, it looked like you were back on the phone with American Airlines. Are you off?
No, they just keep checking in with me to tell me I'm still on hold, so it's very strange.
Very polite of them.
What's that?
It's very polite of them.
I mean, you're right. It actually is. There's nothing worse than sitting there and wondering if they're ever going to come back. No, yeah, I think Volkov is the pick, right? He's, like you said, he's a high IQ fighter. The range is going to be a problem for Tybura. And to be honest, Tybura has gotten fights to the ground, but I've just never seen him do it really in a way. I'm looking back on some of my notes from previous fights. He's never really looked great doing it, and Volkov is good enough to where, unless you're like a pretty good wrestler, you're not going to like flop him to the ground in some weird, makeshift takedown, right? So I think Tybura is going to have a tough time truly getting him down. and Volkov's just going to pick him apart. So that's the pick. I think you're right, Jake. I think it's going to be a bit of a, jab and move, 1-2. Tybura is going to hold him a little bit. Volkov's going to separate. Lance pick some shots. I don't know that it's going to be an extremely exciting fight, but I think Volkov is the pick, probably by decision, because Tybura is pretty tough. So, yeah, I think that one's – I think it's a pretty clear-cut Volkov win by decision pick.
Yeah, and I mentioned I might grab that prop. I'll have to see what the odds are specifically on that prop. I don't think I'm going to do Volkov and DraftKings because outside of the 30 win points, for winning a decision, it's just going to be strikes, and those don't score well. This may be he wins a 30-27 unanimous decision and scored like 50 points in DraftKings. Yeah. Monkey knife fight is interesting though because it could be a lot of strikes, or it could be very few, even though it goes to a decision. So this may be a weird less, even though it goes 3 rounds type fight. But the safer play is probably more with Volkov dancing around, Marcin charging in, hitting the body with stupid little shots while he's looking for weird, as you said, Dan, makeshift takedowns. So more is probably the safe play with monkey knife fights. What do you think there, Jake?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's fine with me. I agree.
Oh, super useful. wewantpicks.com/MKF. They will give you an instant deposit match of $100. And all you need to do is say more or less on these strike lines, and you can 2.5 times your money, triple your money, even 25 times your money if you string a few of those things together. Next up, at UFC 267, we have Islam Makhachev versus late replacement Dan Hooker. Islam 20-1 overall in his career, 5-0 in his last 5. Dan Hooker 21-10 in his career, 3-2 in his last 5. This was supposed to be Islam versus Rafael dos Anjos, but RDA pulled out with an injury.
So when will the Jet be here?
This idiot.
The Jet will be here. Okay.
So I'll just sit here while you. Okay. Very clever, Jacob. Very clever. So it was supposed to be
a little two birds with one stone there, huh?
Yeah. And then he walked off. Look at him. Anyway, Islam was supposed to fight RDA. RDA pulled out due to injury. Dan Hooker is coming off that really nice win over Nasrat Haqparast, where he added wrestling to his game plan out of nowhere. And while these are very different opponents for Islam, I'm not sure if that matters at all. Islam's an insane wrestler. He's got really good hands. His grappling is aggressive. He's always looking to advance, punish, or finish. He doesn't just camp out looking for a decision win. Jacob, you mentioned in an interview you saw, I think with Javier Mendez, that the only time they ever see Khabib lose rounds in the gym was against Islam. Islam's the only person that could do that to Khabib. And with all that said, I think he would absolutely lose a technical striking match with Dan Hooker. So he does need to get this to the ground, but I don't know why it would be a technical striking match because Islam could take anybody down whenever he wants to. Dan Hooker, very, very good striker with an enormous amount of heart. He's a rangy kickboxer. He uses kicks really well to manage that distance. In his last fight against Nasrat, I mentioned we saw him work in wrestling, and those takedowns looked really good. They were out of nowhere. They were set up well, and they were effective. I think the KO loss to Michael Chandler sort of forced him to add the wrestling and add other layers to his, to his career, to his game plans. The unfortunate reality is that Islam can take Dan down at will and could absolutely control this fight from there. Ali, and that's Ali Abdelaziz, Islam's manager, was 100% correct when he said Dan's only chance is a lucky punch. And obviously it wouldn't be lucky because that's literally Dan Hooker's game plan, but his only path is to somehow keep this standing, crack Islam, and pray to God something happens there. If there's a bet here, it's Dan Hooker inside the distance, but decision, no action, because we have seen with the Poirier fight, with the Felder fight, how ridiculously tough Dan Hooker is. And it is possible that Dan Hooker could maybe knock out Islam. We've seen it happen one time before. And if he doesn't knock out Islam, can he survive? What do you think, Jacob? Could he survive and not get finished in this fight?
This is a bad matchup for me to pick because I'm biased on both sides. I absolutely love Islam. Islam is my dude. And he is like, I can't wait until he gets better. He's going to keep winning until he's a champion. He's going to get better and better at English. And his comedy is so funny. He's one of the funniest dudes. Watch interactions with him and Khabib when they're wrestling and stuff. He is the funniest dude in the world. I absolutely love Islam. I love his skill set. Dan Hooker, I love as a person. I don't think he's that good of a fighter. I think he's very good. Obviously, he's a little bit better than me, but as like a top, I don't think he's one of those top level guys. I think he got a hot streak. He's tough as shit, but as like a complete fighter, I just don't think he's there as a top level guy. That's why you see him losing lately. I think he gets absolutely rolled over in this fight against Islam. As you mentioned, the one punch has happened before to Islam. It could happen again. But Islam should absolutely dominate this fight. I agree with the 650 odds, even ballooned as they are, which is actually pretty disrespectful to Hooker too. But I agree with them. I'm all Islam all the way.
What do you think, Dan? Do you think Dan Hooker is a decent candidate for wins inside the distance, decision, no action, or can he probably not survive?
Listen, I disagree, Jacob, that he's not a good fighter. Listen, I think he's good. I think he's tough. He's skilled. I mean, look at the war he was
better
in.
than me.
Well, I mean, yeah.
and you didn't see it, but I had incredible takedown event. If you guys didn't know, Angelo tried to take me down.
I heard all about this.
Destroyed a table, knocked a waitress over the railing, and I was on my feet. So
Angelo's still glowing after Glover said that he had good wrestling technique.
Glover said, I beat you in a wrestling match.
Angelo, we talk about this all the time. We've already got it figured out. We're going to do it in his gym. Whenever you're like the guy from Inspector Gadget, you haven't moved from that chair. You're like Doctor. What's his name? Yeah, with the cat. Right? Yeah. Cat. As soon as you start getting some blood flowing through there and you start working out a little bit, then we'll talk about a wrestling match. Until then, just keep petting that cat. I think in this fight, it's the same thing as the last one. Like, Hooker's good. He's got skills. But wrestling, if you can't defend wrestling, you're hoping for a big shot. And it could happen, but realistically, it probably won't,
And you mentioned too about there's levels to wrestling. And this is like the top. We've reached the top here with wrestling as far as like you can have good takedown defense and you're still going to get taken down.
Right, yeah. Now they're saying that now that Khabib's gone, he's probably the best wrestler in the UFC. A lot of people have been saying that. So,
and he out-wrestled Khabib at times.
Yeah, I've seen some videos where it's like I think DC did it, where they do like, what's his show called, where he breaks down the technique, and it's like 3 different transitions of chain wrestling. Like, he goes for the first, doesn't get it, goes for the second, doesn't get it. And it's like the first one's a shot, the second one's Greco, the third one's a trip. Like, the guy's got so many different variations and different. And
there's no thought behind him. It's just all boom, 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 boom. He's not.
So it's just repetition, drilling, probably since he was 3 years old. So, yeah, he's the pick. But, I mean, again, man, these odds are just – they make you want to put a little something on Hooker and hope he lands a big flying knee or – he throws some wild stuff. I'm sure he knows what he's in for, right? So when he does get that space, you got to imagine he's going to go for something big. So,
well, and that's why I mentioned wins inside the distance, decision, no action. We've seen Dan Hooker be tough as hell. And if he can survive, you'll get plus money on that for sure.
And this is as Dan as a person, this is a win-win for him, right? He gets to go to Abu Dhabi. He takes a short notice fight. He saves the fight. Everyone loves him. And he's supposed to lose, right? He's a huge, huge underdog. So if he loses, that's what happens. But if he wins, this is a huge, huge moment and opportunity for him.
I'm just looking back on his fights. When has he fought a wrestler? When's the last time he fought a wrestler?
Yeah.
Chandler, okay, but Chandler knocked him out.
No, I know. And look what
Gilbert
Islam did
Burns.
to Drew Dober. And Drew Dober hits harder than Dan Hooker does. And look what he did to him.
He knocked out Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert Burns isn't really a wrestler. He's just a grappler.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, that was too. I mean, first of all, it's not even the same caliber realm of wrestling, right? So it's like, not only has he not fought really a true wrestler lately. I mean, there's Ally Quinton there, if you want to say that, but like, this guy's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. So it's going to be a tough matchup for him unless he's got some tricks up his sleeve that we don't know about. But I think Islam's going to get. Yeah. I hope he does it.
Lots of uppercuts and knees. So
it's a fight. It can happen, but
I don't think I have ever seen somebody $9,600 in DraftKings ever. So
there's been, I think Nunes was 97 at one of her fights.
Maybe it just feels.
I'm pretty sure Nunes was $9,700.
Well, Islam's pretty much a lock. I might do the inside the distance decision no action bet on Dan Hooker, just hoping maybe he gets a knockout, and if he just loses a really bad decision, I'll get a refund. wewantpicks.com/bets if you want to hop into that. DraftKings $9,600 is so much money, but it's basically a guaranteed win. If you think there's a stoppage, you almost got to do it. But honestly, I mentioned this before, there are so many dominant wrestlers at that high 8,000, low 9,000 range. Save $400 and go for one of them. And then Monkey Knife Fight, Dan Hooker's so tough. It's got to be more and more, right? He's just so freaking tough. I think he can make this last and just he knows he's going to get taken down. So
he's tough. I mean, there's a difference between being tough in striking and, as you mentioned, being tough on your back when there's Islam's elbows hit you in the face. I mean, he's still tough, but there's a difference between being able to kind of bob and weave and survive like that in a striking match compared to just being pinned down and
but I think he knows he's going to get taken down. So instead of defending the takedowns, I think he's going to come out here, throw with a ton of volume, try to touch him as many times as he can. And we're talking Monkey Knife Fight. So it's just the only thing that matters is he going to land more than 58 strikes in that fight? I think he can.
I played less.
All right. Danny?
I don't know. Less, I guess. I mean, the reality is Islam's got more finishes than he does decisions.
Yeah.
That's another kind of, he's got the ability to sub. I don't know if he's going to TKO Hooker, but he could tire him out in that second, third round and get a sub, rear naked, arm triangle, something like that. So it's that level of pressure where it's like forces the best guys to kind of just give up and be like, all right, take it. Take my arm, take my whatever. Just get me out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it should be one-sided. So the pick is clear. Maybe there's some action here. Maybe there isn't. We'll see what happens. Next up, at UFC 267, we have the co-main event and one of two title fights. We have Peter Yan versus Corey Sandhagen for the bantamweight interim, even though it shouldn't be, interim title. Peter Yan, 15-2 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, but he's coming off of that DQ loss to Aljamain Sterling that he was dominating that fight. DQ, count it if you want. It really shouldn't. Corey Sandhagen, 14-3 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that split decision loss.
Neither one of these guys lost their last fight.
Yeah, you could argue that.
Fair point.
Corey Sandhagen split decision to TJ Dillashaw. I thought TJ won, so it is what it is. Anyway, stat-wise, before I break down the fighters, if you look at their stats, they're basically identical. Both land 6 strikes for every 4 that they take, and both guys have 60% striking defense with a 50% striking offense. And I was surprised when I saw that because I expected Peter to be far more dominant in his striking, at least stat-wise. Yan is a phenomenal striker with fantastic takedown defense. He's a nightmare for anyone that can't outstrike him, which is pretty much everybody. He plots forward with a Muay Thai, like just a high guard, comes marching forward, and then blasts away with power, with accuracy. And to cap all of that off, he's a good grappler. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight. But then taking him down is almost impossible because he has a 90% takedown defense over 8 UFC fights. Corey Sandhagen, very active striker. He has deceiving power. I mean, he looks like a little skinny beta boy, and he's got legitimate power, very good striking technique. He's fluid. He's fast. He has nice combinations and solid variety. He will throw punches, kicks, elbows, knees, and just mix it all up really well. And where they land, body, head, leg, he's very, very versatile on his feet. He's athletic, he's tough, and he ties it all out with solid BJJ. A lot of people argue, like Jacob just did, that he won his fight against TJ Dillashaw. Regardless of what side you're on, I think we can all agree he is dangerous, he's tough, and he is a much harder opponent than a rematch with Aljamain Sterling would have been. If you want to do the MMA math, yeah, Aljamain beat Corey, but styles make fights, and Corey does not have great takedown defense, which is how Aljamain beat him. But I don't think that's a factor in this fight. I don't think it matters. Peter's the pick because he's a better striker. He has the takedown defense to keep it standing. But Corey's range is going to be a problem here. His toughness might frustrate Peter. I could even see Corey winning some of those exchanges and sort of forcing Peter to wrestle. In my mind, this is honestly not razor thin, but much closer than these odds. And I'm probably going to do in 3-round fights, I talk about plus 3.5, where you buy 3.5 points on the judges' scorecards. In 5-round fights, it's plus 5.5. You get a couple extra points. I might do that, and I just need Corey to win a round and a half or 2 rounds, whatever it is, and he can get me paid. What do you think there, Jakey?
I think you kind of touched on it, and I think it's going to be a big, big factor in this fight is Corey's length. This dude is tall, he is lengthy, and he uses his length with kicks, with jabs, with straights. I think Peter's going to have some real issues with Corey's length here, man. And I love Corey, and I will admit I'm a little bit biased because I have a Corey Sandhagen autographed card that I'm really hoping he wins the title, and that value just skyrockets because I accidentally bought his card on accident. It was like $100. I thought I was getting like 50 cards. It was one card. Corey Sandhagen, you could do this, man. Do it for me. Do it for my kids' college funds. I need to sell that card. So I like Corey in this matchup.
You thought you were getting 50 Corey Sandhagen cards?
I thought I was going to get 50 Dan Kramer cards, and they sent me Corey Sandhagen. I don't know what's going on there, but
they're all out. They sold out. They've been in high demand lately.
No, they don't. I literally do have 50 Dan Kramer cards that Jesse Correa, that Jesse from our member list sent us. 50 of them. Boom. So that's you and your stupid face.
Wow.
Those are the 50 I tried to order, and I got Corey Sandhagen. But listen,
that's Peter, at least $1 million. Got to be 50 of those. I mean, they were going $3.75 for a long time on eBay. Turn
those into an NFT, a Dan Kramer
NFT. I think they got to be at least $6 now. They got to be.
Dan Kramer NFT. I'll pay $100,000 for that, no problem. But I like. Listen, Jan was the champ for a reason. He was going to win that fight versus Sterling. He is very, very good. I just honestly think that Corey has those abilities, and his length is going to be an issue for Jan. I think Jan wants to get in there tight, and I don't think he's going to be able to against Corey. So I like Corey. He can't get taken down, though, man, because he is good as jiu-jitsu, and sometimes he will get taken down. He lost that Sterling fight because it was so early in the fight that they were both dry, and Sterling just got his back and sunk it in. Corey cannot get taken down, man. Do not get taken down. Please don't get taken down and just win this on the feet because I think that he can.
Danny boy, Peter is an American Top Team guy. You're an American Top Team guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's down there now. He did a couple camps here throughout COVID. I don't think he's been there in a little while, but I've heard he's a good dude. I heard he trains hard. This is one of those fights where, like you said, styles makes fights, right? Like Corey Sandhagen is a weird matchup. He's tough. He's lanky. He throws those, low percentage shots, but he can catch you with them, the low percentage shots that finish you, spinning kicks, all that stuff. So, I could see that being a factor. I think this is definitely way closer than the odds say. I think Corey Sandhagen is definitely live in this fight. But, man, Peter Yan is one of those guys where it's like you watch him and it's like he doesn't – I feel like you watch him and it's like, oh, he doesn't do anything that special. Someone's going to be better than him. But he is just a machine. He just comes forward and it's just – I don't want to say fundamentals, but his skills are just – it's like I want to say basic and fundamental, but it's like a discredit to how good he is. He just comes forward, he finds shots, and he's one of those guys where it's like I find reasons to be like, he's not that good. He's, someone's going to get him. And then he just keeps winning, doing it the same way.
And I will say that in that fight versus Sterling, Jan did not chase Sterling to the ground. He's supposed to be a better wrestler. He probably is a better wrestler than Sterling, but Sterling also very good with his jiu-jitsu. Every time Sterling went to the ground, there was like those weird, like kind of dump takedowns. He did not chase Sterling to the ground. He didn't want any part of that. So it'll be interesting to see if he does the same thing versus Corey Corey's an even longer guy, very good at jiu-jitsu. Maybe he doesn't want to play around with that stuff and just tries to win a striking battle. And I think he loses that to Corey.
Yeah, I think the first few rounds are going to be close with Sandhagen probably measuring the distance, controlling the pace. But I think over time, Jan is going to walk him down. I like the plus 5.5 bet, Angelo, because I do see this being a lot closer than people think. I see Sandhagen potentially stealing some rounds, and he's always live for one of those crazy spin kicks or knees. So I think he's live in this fight. I certainly like him in DraftKings at 7,400 in a 5-round fight.
Yeah, and it should go 5 rounds realistically. And TJ Dillashaw is a much different fighter than Peter is. So TJ gave Corey a hard time because of the threat of the takedowns. I don't think Peter's really going to threaten those, so Corey can settle into that long, crazy striking. I do think Peter wins, but I think it's super close, and I'm probably going to do that plus 5.5 on Corey. Monkey Knife fight, I think it's more. I think it's just straight up striking the entire fight, 25 minutes of striking. So I got to go more there, and I agree. Either one of these guys, whatever side you're on, either one of these guys are priced well. Because Peter Yan will put up some numbers, could get a finish, $8,800. Corey Sandhagen, $7,400, 5 rounds, could potentially win. I think he's priced well too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Sandhagen's losses. It's like you said, Dillashaw, the fight where he arguably won at wrestling, and then the Aljamain fight, which he made a mistake and gave his back up in a minute into the fight and got choked out. But other than that, man, he has beaten some good guys. Marlon Moraes, Frankie Edgar, Rafael Sunciao, John Lineker. So I don't know. I think this is definitely going to be a lot closer than the outside.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. If you want to grab that plus 5.5 bet, all that means is you are buying 5.5 points on the judges' scorecard. So Corey Sandhagen, I think the math works out to he has to win 1.5 rounds. So he has to win.
It's a little more than that, but what's the line on that? Do you know? Do you have it in front of you?
I don't know yet. All the judges have to give him 1 round, and then they can give him a few other points here and there, and you hit your bet. So I'm good with that. I'm going to check those odds. That'll probably be even money, honestly, and I'll take even money to let Corey lose a decision, but win me a bet.
Angelo, before we finish, I have to tell my story about how I got my passport that I know you want to hear all about, since you were very critical of my abilities to get it done. So I'd love to tell that story whenever you're ready.
How about we finish this?
Because I know you're going to edit it out at the end. You're the editor, all right? So.
Anyway, wewantpicks.com/bets. Jump into a promo, make a deposit, let me know, and I will send you $50 Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, however you want it, as a thank you for supporting the channel.
Next up.
At UFC 267, we have Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira for the light heavyweight championship of the world. I will do a quick breakdown, and then, Dan, I'm going to hand it to you because Glover's legit your best friend. He was in your wedding. You're flying out to Abu Dhabi to watch him, support him. So I'll let you have first crack at this breakdown. So Jan Blachowicz, 28-8 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off a successful title defense against Israel Adesanya. Glover Teixeira, 32-7 in his career, 5-0 in his last 5 with a wild career resurgence. Danny boy, you're best friends with him in real life. Why don't you break down this fight, understanding that you're biased, but do your best to not be?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely completely biased. Listen, I'll be honest. I am so pumped for this guy, and whatever. I'll spare everybody the dramatic story, but talk about a guy who deserves to win the title. He's gotten there by literally his skills and winning fights. No trash talk, no hype, not any of the other stuff and I'm not against that stuff. Listen, it works. People do it, and then they back it up with skills. But he has done it humbly. He has done it just by winning fights and having skills. So couldn't be happier for this dude. I mean, he's going to be 42 in a couple days. It's insane that he's got another title shot. You know, he fought John Jones back in 2014, went to a decision. After that, had some bumps in the road, right? People thought he was done. And then, man, he went on a tear. So I hope he wins. I think out of all the fights in the division, not all the fights in the division, but I think this is a winnable fight for him. I really do. I think it's a tough fight, obviously, right? Jan's the champ. I think it's a good matchup for him, though. I think he's got ways to win. I think if he executes a game plan and it works, I think he's going to win this fight. And I think the way he does it is on the ground, right? Like striking-wise, I think, let's just say for argument's sake, it's 50-50. But Jan's got a ton of power. Glover also has a ton of power. I would argue that let's not go with the 50-50 and see who lands the big shot first, and let's try to get it to the ground. So I think if Glover is wrestling, staying in his face, clinching up against the cage, making it ugly early, I think he will find a way to get it to the ground, and I think from there he'll dominate. He's one of the heaviest, strongest dudes when it comes to grappling. And that's not just for me. Ask people who have trained with him on the ground. He is freaking heavy on top, and once he gets you there, you can't move. My favorite thing used to be to get up from underneath people when they took me down. It was a freaking different thing with him. And I train with heavyweights, light heavyweights. So I'm hoping he can get it to the ground using his wrestling. I think the striking is going to be competitive. Glover's been training with Alex Politan. So he's been working on striking like crazy. He's been focused. He's been eating good. He's been living a very, very good lifestyle for a while now. So I think we're going to see the best form of him at 42 years old, which is crazy to say. And I think he can win via third round submission, ground and pound, third, fourth round submission, ground and pound. If he gets his way on the ground, he starts getting it there often, I don't think Jan's going to be able to survive that pressure. So that's my bias pick, but also I think it's a realistic pick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you for the most part. I mean, obviously somebody's volume is super loud. I'm obviously also, there it goes, Dan. I'm also biased. Obviously, I know Glover well. Dan and I are both from Connecticut. Glover's been in Connecticut for 22 years or whatever it is. But if we break down this fight and we talk about their skills, Jan and Glover are very, very similar fighters. And if you know that movie Gemini with Will Smith, where he's just fighting the younger version of himself, that's basically this. They're very similar, and you might think they are worlds apart in age, but Jan is 39. I thought for sure Jan was like 33, 32. He is 39 years old, and Glover is 42. So, yeah, Glover is past that unfortunate 40-year-old hurdle in MMA, but Jan isn't too far behind him. Both of these guys hit incredibly hard. Both of these guys have solid wrestling. Both of these guys have entire careers worth of experience. Both of them are very dangerous. If I am separating them, I'll say that Jan likely has the better chin, but Glover has proven that his chin and his heart combined will get him through almost any storm. Watch the Thiago Santos fight, right? Thiago Santos lit him up, dropped him, gave him some real trouble, and Glover gritted his way through, got the takedown, and then won from there. Jan will probably be a little faster, but Glover will have the far superior wrestling and far superior BJJ. This entire fight, in my opinion, comes down to Glover's chin. If he can take some of those Jan punches on his way in for wrestling takedowns, I think it's his fight. Because Jan is not going to be able to compete with the takedowns, with the jiu-jitsu, but he's going to have to take some shots on the way in. So it's definitely an uphill battle. The odds are probably correct here, just given Jan's power, and his chin's been pretty stable, and Glover's over 40. But Glover's got two paths to victory, and I feel like Jan only has one. Jacob, you're the outsider here, meaning you never met the guy, you don't have any vested interest other than through us. What do you think?
Yeah, the only non-biased opinion. And listen, I'll be rooting for Glover. I think everyone's going to be. I think the majority of people will probably be rooting for Glover. I don't know him personally, but you guys talk about him. He seems like the greatest dude in the world, the most positive guy in the world. So I definitely hope he wins. My issue is he gets hit too much. He honestly just gets hit too much. And there's YouTube videos of him literally, it's just every fight of, I think it's titled like Glover almost getting knocked out and coming back to win, which is great when you can do it, but eventually you're not going to be able to do it. And he's done it so often. He's down that Kutalaba fight. He was down, even against Anthony Smith, he's getting hit, and then he comes back and just dominates that fight. I think against Jan, you just can't get hit, man. And I think Glover just gets hit too much. I hope he wins. I hope I'm wrong. But if I'm making an unbiased pick, I'm picking Jan in this fight.
It's funny. I'm just looking back on Jan's record. I'm like, all right, who is he, wrestling wise? All right, Corey Anderson, but he won that pretty early. And I got to go back and rewatch this. But the Jacare Souza fight won via split decision. And if I'm remembering that right, it was a lot of against the cage stuff. But I want to go back and see his wrestling defense and just see how good it is. But he really hasn't fought people, at least in the last, I guess Corey Anderson. But that fight in early. So, I don't think he's faced somebody who's trying to take him down. And I don't know that that's what Glover's going to do. I think
Corey Anderson was 0 for 0 in takedown attempts.
Right. So he didn't even get the ticket.
Souza was 0 for 5 in that
Who
fight.
was 0 for 5?
Ronaldo was 0 for 5.
Jacare. But his takedown defense is listed at 65%. But listen, Jan also has his own.
Luke Rockhold was 0 for 5.
You could, but that was like an over the hill Luke Rockhold. But you can, Jan should win. Jan should win. We don't want him to, but he should, right? But Jan has his own chin issues, right? We watched Thiago Santos put him out, who's basically an 85-pounder, and Glover weathered that exact same storm. So, what I am confident in is the monkey knife fight line will probably be less. Because 108 strikes, if Jan hits Glover's head 108 times, that's going to be a rough night. So I'm also biased, so it's a hard pick. Jacob's the only non-biased one here. Jan should win, should have a better chin, probably has a little bit more power, but Glover's got the grappling, also has his own power. So it should be an awesome fight. My only complaint is that it's at like freaking 2:00 in the afternoon or some nonsense like that.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest. I may be biased, but man, I'm like looking back, and I gotta watch the tape before I say too much. But like, I don't know. I don't know that Jan's truly been tested, taken down on the ground with somebody like Glover before. And I feel like, I want to look in where he's training, who he's training with, but. Man, if you haven't done that and felt that, it's a different, and Glover's got the experience that, like, the videos you referenced, Jacob, right? Him getting hurt and coming back, right? Like, you're right. He probably shouldn't be getting hurt. That his luck will run out eventually. But one thing I think that really speaks to is the veteran savviness, like that he can get hurt and knows, all right, I got to get in on a leg or I got to scramble and get to the ground, like. That sort of knowledge and skill is priceless in a fight like this, where he could get hurt, he could get tagged. But man, I just think it's like the Kutalaba fight. When they got to the ground, it was like, okay, this fight's over. The other Russian guy he fought too got to the ground. It's like, well, this is over. This is a mismatch now. It's like it keeps happening in all these fights. These guys are so good. As soon as they get to the ground, it looks like they shouldn't even be there. With Anthony Smith, same thing. Looks like he shouldn't even have been there. Once they got to the ground. So I'm interested to see if this fight goes to the ground, what it looks like. I feel like it could be the same thing, and everyone's like, oh, my God, this is a mismatch. I just hope it gets there,
And I think it's super disrespectful to Glover to only talk about Jan's power, because I think the power is even. When Glover hits people, man, he hits them, and he hits them hard. I think the power is a wash in this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a really exciting one. We'll see what happens. Don't forget, it is an early card, but it's not a pay-per-view. It is free. It's numbered, but it is free. You don't need to buy this one. You'll get on ESPN Plus for absolutely nothing. wewantpicks.com. Grab a promo. If you do a betting promo, wewantpicks.com/bets, reach out to me. Let me know after you make a deposit, and I will send you $50, Cash App, Venmo, literally however you want it. I've paid a bunch of people out already. Let me know. I'll get you paid. Make a deposit. Support us. Support our partners. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to live stream this weekend. Maybe Jacob and I can when we're watching the fights, but crap is in the middle of the freaking day. Either way, thank you, everybody. Danny Boy, congrats on your passport.
Oh, wish me congrats. Yeah, I still do. I'm just realizing now there's like, with my layover in London, I think I got to get a COVID test tomorrow morning that's available to, I don't know. There's so much stuff going on. That's why I'm emailing the UFC to figure out all the protocols. So anybody who's got some tips on international travel with COVID, please send them to, I don't know, send them to our email. Angelo, please forward them to me.
Either way, thank you all very much for the watch. You guys are going crazy in the live chat. Just continue that discussion at the Discord channel. Same back and forth, pinpoint, bounce off each other, whatever you want to do. Link in the description. We'll try to see you on Saturday.